This production comes to you in association with the Bluebell Warrington. So welcome once again to In Conversation with Super League Raw, and this one is going to be a belter. Absolutely delighted to say we have an exclusive, the first sit down with Steve McNamara post what has happened at the Catalan Dragons, one of the most famous faces in British rugby league without question. Steve, welcome to Super League Raw.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, not as much as I do, mate. Believe me. But no, it's lovely to have you. Now, look, we could talk your playing career. We might have you on at a later date to talk about your playing career. But today we're going to talk very much about your coaching career for obvious reasons. But we're going to settle you in. We always settle you in on In Conversations. Let's settle you in straight away. A couple of quick fire questions. So here we go. Italian or Chinese?
Oh, Italian.
Absolutely. Are we going red wine or white wine?
Now, after the spell in France, I would never have ever said red wine, but I'll go red wine now.
Absolutely. Keep them on side. Keep the supporters on side. Absolutely. What's your favourite? Who's your favourite band, Steve?
Favourite what, sorry?
Band.
Favourite band? Do you know, there's a band, I saw them, the Blossoms, they're called the Blossoms.
Yeah.
Not top end, but I think they're a really, really good band. I've seen them a couple of times live. I like them.
Yeah, they do a lot of festivals, don't they?
Yeah.
I think I'm right in thinking they've done a couple of pre-matches as well for the Blossoms in and around the game, I think, to be fair. Your favourite film? What's your favourite film of all time?
Do you know what? I don't really watch films, and let's go The Green Mile.
Yeah, good film. Tom Hanks. Yeah, like that. Happy days. On the topic of films, and let's be fair, it could be serialised. If there was a film made of Steve McNamara's life, who's playing Steve McNamara? If you could have your choice,
gosh. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. That's a tough question.
I won't want to insult you. You know what I mean? There you go. Yeah. One for the mums there. Absolutely. Yeah. Why not? Bit of George. Loving that. Happy days. Right. And then finally, because we want to really get into the crux of the interview with you, in terms of your rugby league career, and this is a tough one, I know. And but who has been your biggest influence throughout your rugby league career?
Yeah, two. That's pretty simple. That my dad first and foremost. Yeah. My dad was a coach of coaches. He coach educator. So from a very, very early age, although I was going to be a player and stuff like that, you were around coaching, and some of the sacrifices he made were sensational for me. So my dad, and then I was very fortunate. My first ever professional coach was Brian Smith. And Brian Smith, particularly at that stage of his coaching career, he was the best coach of. If I could describe it as the A to Z of rugby league, like you got taught everything by him. So again, when you've had a good upbringing and your father's brought you up the right way, and then your first professional coach has that influence on you, I think that really sets you off on the right track. And for me, that was really important.
Yeah, well, we had Tony Smith, and he spoke for obvious reasons the link in the family, but he also said that one of his biggest influences was Brian. So, yeah, he's in good company. That's twice Brian's been mentioned on In Conversation. So, if Brian, I'm sure Brian will be very proud of that one. Right, let's get into Steve McNamara. Now, before we do, I did say we were going to concentrate on your coaching career, but let's not forget you were a player as well. Hull FC, Bradford Bulls, Wakey and the Giants. And, of course, you were a part of the 1997 Bradford Bulls team that won the last Super League as a league back in 97 before it became a grand final. Great memories for you, Steve, and something that I'm sure you're very proud of.
Unbelievable memories. In terms of playing career, the best 4 years, best 4 seasons, of my career, without a doubt. What Brian Smith did with that group at that stage, so it was sort of like it was through the 96-7, it was like the crossover year. And Brian he put a team together that complemented each other so much. Like it was uncanny, not just in terms of on the field. So in terms of the way he mixed that group together, all our strengths and weaknesses combined, we sort of came together really well. But off the field as well, it was bizarre. The connection was just enormous. And that season we went. I think it was a 22-game season. We went the first 20 games undefeated. And I'll throw it back. We were on £500 to win back then as well. and it was like the boys were just every single week we were winning games and getting this £500, and it was like, it was just a great place to be in. And obviously also start Super League, Bull Mania, you know, the parades going around the track, the pre-match, the full stadiums, the big games during that period. Like I said, it was the place to be and play at the start of Super League.
Yeah, it was the blueprint that now we've seen KR, certainly the Lee Leopards. I mean, you know, they are, dare I say it, the modern day Bullmania. And on that as well, you know, if we could transport that Bullmania from '96 into the present Super League, it would add so much, wasn't it? It's probably one of the biggest tragedies in Super League, that after all that great start from Bradford and the razzmatazz and success, etc., that unfortunately it faded away and they're no longer with us in Super League.
It's such a shame. It is such a shame. I mean, let's be honest, you know, there's only 4 teams that have still won you know, the Super League and the grand final and, you know, whatever. And Bradford Bulls are one of those 4 teams. You know, you've got Leeds, Saints, Wigan, and everyone else. We've all been trying to chase that down and be the first to break that. You know, there's a few of us had a good crack at it, but none of us have been able to break that monopoly. So, yeah, it's such a shame that the Bradford, as it was then, isn't in the competition as it is now, because it certainly would have added a lot to it.
Absolutely, destination rugby league, isn't it? It's an event as a part. You know, what they do at Lee. You and me saw it firsthand at the weekend. That is the blueprint for rugby league going forward. Incredible, right? Before we move on to your coaching career, let's just as well touch on another proud moment for you, of course, to represent Great Britain and England as a player. Nothing better, of course, from a playing perspective. And of course, you were a part of the Test series back in 1997. England lost it 2-1. To Australia, but you were at Old Trafford in game 2 where we won 20 points to 12. As a player, Steve, and I always like to, because obviously us mere mortals will never get this. As a player, walking out for your country, pinnacle of rugby league, playing the Aussies, whether it be Wembley, Old Trafford, wherever it may be, and the national anthem starts and you're wearing, whether it be the line of Great Britain or, of course, the England shirt. Just, you know, for those watching this and listening to this on the podcast, if you can, do it justice. As a player, what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get any better, you don't get any higher, particularly in those arenas, in those stages there as well. And what happened was, back in 1992, I got called up as a replacement it was the last sort of Great Britain Lions genuine tour, I think. I was on the holidays. I got flown out as a replacement for Les Holiday. And I was at the famous Melbourne Test remember Great Britain smashed the Aussies at Melbourne. And that was like I was in the midweek side then. I was playing in the midweek and I was very proud to do that, but envious of that type of situation. So then when I got my opportunity in 1997, and I was very grateful of the opportunity, because, you know, there was players a lot bigger, faster, stronger, you know, all of that than myself. But I managed to find myself in the Test team on that occasion. And it was just an incredible experience. I actually didn't get on the field at Old Trafford. That's
Did you not? No, you were on the bench, weren't you?
I was on the bench. It was years when there was only 2 players on the bench, but the team was playing that well. I think Andy Farrell was at 13 and everything was going smooth and we were winning. But just to be experienced that, and then I think the 3rd game was at Ellen Road where the Australians beat us, and, you know, managed to play in that one. But honestly, it's the pinnacle. You know, you do some great things at club level and etc. But particularly for the English, for the British, playing for, you know, either Great Britain or England in those stages against Australia. And look, those boys this year, they're going to get that opportunity this year, aren't they? Like, it's what a series that's going to be. And I think it's the first time for a long time, those players, you can play Tonga, you can play Samoa, you can do all of those things. And there are big challenges, important challenges, but this is top draw. This is what, you know, Test match rugby league is all about.
Yeah, there's some very exciting British lads over in the NRL that I'm sure are going to be a part of that Ashley squad to bolster it. It's going to be a great end to the season. Really looking forward to it. We need that vibrant element of international rugby league. And of course, again, you know, I said that you're one of the most recognisable faces. You've had the honour, one of the few people, actually, let's be fair, not many people do it. It's a very, very small club to have played, but also to have coached your national side. And I've got to go there, Steve, so do forgive me. The World Cup, I've got to go there. New Zealand, Wembley. 80 minutes, Sean Johnson. I don't think you probably ever sent this man a Christmas card. I mean, to be fair, we were so unlucky. I mean, that was, we'd have given the Aussies a better game as well in the final in New Zealand. Yeah. How crushing was that at the time? We were brilliant in that World Cup.
The only way I can describe it was like time stood still when Sean scored that Sean Johnson scored that try, the whole stadium. I remember I was sort of half coming down the steps and praying we'd all gone and hoping we would, and they scored, and it was as if everything went into slow motion freeze mode, and yeah, it was. It probably taught everybody a lot of things. Like that is the highest level of sport when two teams like that are playing against each other. And I thought that was the best we'd played. Whilst ever I was being the coach of England, I felt that was our actual performance-wise, our very best performance. There were so many little things didn't quite drop our way where the game could have been finished and we could have buried it, and we left ourselves vulnerable in that last minute. But that was, yeah, I just think it was the closest. And I think at that time, that team was primed, ready to really go in that final. You know, I think it was. I think it was. That was its time. But unfortunately, like I said, that's what top level sport is. You know, I went on to coach at the New Zealand Warriors, and Sean Johnson was there, and I wouldn't say we had a laugh about it, but we had some good chats about it. And obviously, you imagine from their side of it, winning a semi-final like that, the elation on the other side of it as well. But that's, like I said, you know, top end sport. That's what it can that's what it can do to you. And unfortunately for us, we were just on the wrong side of it.
I think there'd have been a lot of Australians breathing a huge sigh of relief when New Zealand went in, because I don't think they would have fancied playing us the way we played in that World Cup.
I remember going on the field because straight after Australia were warming up, I think they were playing Fiji in the other semi-final, and the Aussie players were getting around us. Actually, they'd been watching the dressing room. They felt so sorry sort of for us in a way there as well. And it was testament to them and some of their characters. You know, Jonathan Thurston. I remember having a chat with me around that, and it was you know, just before he was about to play in his own semi-final. So there's a huge amount of respect between the teams, certainly during that period.
It's what defines our sport. You know, it really is. I mean, you know, it's why I believe it's the greatest sport on earth. One, because the players, there's no greater athlete than a rugby league player. I don't care what anybody says. Well, they put the bodies through, the fitness levels. It was interesting. I don't know if you heard it, but Christian Wade came out after his debut for Wigan this week and said, you know, he was burning. He didn't believe how high intensity rugby league was, and that's Christian Wade, who's played at the highest level in the other code that we don't speak about. But it just goes to show the amount of respect that people who understand rugby league have for the players and the respect within the game. So that's fantastic. The NRL came calling, and again, you know, we are getting to Catalan, folks, don't worry about that. But the NRL came calling. Of course, you also had the pleasure of playing for Bradford and coaching Bradford as well in terms of your coaching career. But of course, you went to the NRL, South Sydney under Trent. You've already said about New Zealand, the New Zealand Warriors. As a coach, how important was that for your coaching development to go over there, experience firsthand their competition and their coaching methods?
Yeah, for me it was huge because you said South Sydney there on the Trent. That's a
sorry.
That's
it was Roosters, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because that would get you in trouble down there without.
Yeah, it was Roosters. My apologies, Roosters.
The all Wigan Saints rivalry, as you know.
Do you know what that is? I'm a bunny. So whenever I say Sydney, South, so in my head, yeah, it was the Roosters. Carry on.
No, it was after the World Cup. I'd actually had the chance to go the year before to the Roosters. Trent offered me an opportunity to go as the assistant coach, but it was the World Cup year. Didn't feel it was the right time to be able to go across there. But after the World Cup, my contract was up then. I've been speaking to Bath Rugby Union. I was very, very close to going to Bath as a rugby union coach. Trent came back and said there was an opportunity. I spoke to the people at the RFL. There was a chance there to go part-time with the England team at that stage. And I thought, you know, this is the job for me. I want to work in the NRL. I want to be we spent a lot of time building the England program, getting to know each other, getting to know ourselves, you know, redefining ourselves, you know, making sure we had an identity. But this was a chance to get into the opposition's corner. This was a chance to go in the opposition and find out what they were doing, how they were doing it, what our enemy was, what we was up against. And obviously for me as a coach there, an opportunity to go and coach as an assistant coach, you know, focus solely on certain aspects of coaching rather than the all holistic stuff there. And look, I have no ego about it whatsoever. People say, "Oh, you're going from an England head coach and being an assistant coach in the NRL." Doesn't matter. It was an opportunity for me to go and learn and to do something I really wanted to do. And I had, you know, 3 fantastic seasons at the Roosters and probably 2/3 of a season there at the New Zealand Warriors when I went across there for the last year across there.
what you're describing there is humility. I mean, and I spoke to Darryl Powell, I think the week after your departure from Catalan, who spoke incredibly highly of you, and that won't surprise you. And he said, you're a stand-up guy, and of course, I don't know you that well. We're developing our relationship, but what that says is humility. You're not ahead of yourself. Even yes, you've been at the highest level in the English game, but you've got no issue going and bettering yourself. And as a coach, I'm sure a lot of what you learned in the NRL, you've brought back over to UK Rugby League.
Yeah, it was really important for the progression, for my progression, but I felt for the England program at that stage as well. There was a lot of our English some of our better English players were playing across there. Sam Burgess was across there, James Graham was across there, Gareth Ellis, I think, was still across there at that stage. So it was an opportunity. And then you were starting to get players like Gareth Whittaple was coming into the programme, or, the contentious ones, if you like, during that period of time, and whether people should qualify or not. But no, it was just all round. For me, it was a great decision to go across there and to see how it's done on a different side of the world, different emphasis, different focus, defence was the biggest thing that you come out of there. You don't win competitions, you don't compete for grand finals unless you've got a great defensive team. So, you sometimes design your attack to help your defence as well, and those types of things and scenarios there to get it across. So no, it was what an experience, and being able to still do the England job at the same time and going to some tournaments 2014, 15, 16, was really important for me to continue that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, there's part two, ladies and gentlemen, in the future. Steve coming back, giving us a coaching masterclass in terms of what all of that means and how he implemented it, etc. That'd be outstanding. Right, let's get into Project Catalan Dragons. So, first and foremost, and I said this to you briefly when we met on Saturday, unplanned, of course. Why the Dragons? I mean, that it was a big project at that time. Catalan aren't pulling up any trees. Let's be fair. They're in the competition, but they're not really contenders. And not just that, it's the personal aspect. You're moving your family to a whole different country, a different language. So walk us through. What was it like at that time? What was the decision-making process, and why the Catalan Dragons?
Yeah, it was a bit different because the family had left when I'd left the Roosters. The family had come back to do GCSEs and A levels, Grace and Ben. So I'd gone across the New Zealand Warriors. I wanted a new experience in the NRL, and going to the Warriors, there was something there behind me. The Catalans job was always a job that attracted me. I was always interested in that. I was always thought about it. I visited Trent Robinson when he was coaching across there, whilst I was the England coach. Anyhow, I was at the New Zealand Warriors. I was completely happy. I wanted to come back from the NRL for many jobs, but then this job became available. And it was one of them where I just thought, this is too big an opportunity, too good an opportunity. Now, normally I would ask 1,000 questions. I want lots of information before I make a decision. But I actually felt Catalans weren't in great shape at that stage. And if I asked some questions and I didn't like the answers, I might not take the job. And I really wanted to do it. It was sort of going against, it was taking me out the comfort zone in some regards. And so the opportunity came, I had the conversations. It was a little bit difficult leaving the Warriors, midway through the season, 2/3 way through the season. But there was clearly a big task on hand at Catalans because we were really close to probably losing our Super League status during that year. And we needed to get across there and try and get that done.
And there you go. I mean, you heard it from the horse's mouth. Close to losing the Super League status, and what an achievement! Because you might not know this, but the Catalan Dragons before Steve McNamara averaged 7.83 position in Super League. In Steve McNamara's era, it was 4.57. You took the Catalan Dragons from a team outside of the playoffs and on the brink of being nowhere to a team that was respected, that was in and around it. I mean, we'll get to the honours in a bit. But you, without doubt, was at the forefront of putting Catalan Dragons and French Rugby League, let's not forget that because they're the flag bearers for French Rugby League, on the map, Steve.
Yeah, I think the first thing was to survive that year, and which we had to do. And then people will ask you about, what's your biggest achievement? Who's the best player you've had there? All of those questions, which might come during this interview as well. But probably the most pleasing aspect is for a team that was labelled inconsistent, where always had that tag of inconsistent, could beat any given team on any day, but could lose against any team on any given day, home and away. We actually, finished top 4 for 4 consecutive years. 20, 21, 22, 23. That for a club like Catalans, because nobody, I promise you, nobody understands how difficult it is to be a Catalans player, a Catalans coach. You can't unless you've been in that. If you interview some of the players who have been there, some of the coaches, and the extreme difficulties. Of course, there's some nice parts there, won't go with it. But in terms of performance, it is the most difficult job to navigate. So to finish top 4 years running, to get that tag of inconsistent back into a consistent team during that 4-year period, to actually be league leaders 1 year, so the most consistent team, and then I think the following year was the year after that, just miss out on points difference on being league leaders. That is a mark of where we got to, regardless of the Challenge Cup, regardless of grand finals, etc. Of being able to get that consistency back within the organisation.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you think of short turnarounds. I mean, Lee, for example, postponed by 24 hours when they'd been to Catalan 2 weeks ago. That was the norm for Catalan. In terms of, post-game analysis, getting them back on the training field. I mean, some of those windows must have been, when you factor in the travel. I mean, I know sometimes you stayed over in the UK, but again, from a personal aspect, if you stay over in the UK, they're not around the kids, they're not around the families. It's that level of sacrifice. So both in terms of game preparation, but also the personal sacrifices. Ollie Partington, case in point, has gone over there this year. Friend of the show, Ollie. It's got to be a difficult transition. As you say, it's only when they're on the inside will they start to realise what a big decision they've made.
Yeah, you try and explain it to them. You have to put the challenge out there in front of them. That challenge isn't for everybody, but you lose that many training days. You lose that many recovery days, preparation days, particularly at the start of the season and the end of the season. The summer months is a few more flights on, so you can sort of manipulate it a little bit better. But basically, we'd set off, at the start of this season, we set off for, Warrington round 2. It was 6 o'clock from the stadium. This is on a Thursday morning. You get to Barcelona, you then have to fly to Manchester. You then have to get to your hotel. You have to play the game the next day. You have to reverse. You get back about 7 o'clock on the Saturday night. And then you go back to that. You go away game again the week after against Lee, and it rolls around again. So it's not an excuse. It's not a reason. It's just that people don't understand the community of, is that the right word? The community, like the constant build up of it. You hear coaches talk about it now. We went to Catalans, it was a tough trip back. We had to give players an extra day off. They get beat after they've been there. Hull have done it. Hull have been there twice this year to Catalan. Yeah. Won in round 1, run a couple of weeks back, and come back and lost, the week after. So it is such there is not an exact science to this. It's a feel about this. It's about doing things. It's about experimenting, feeling it, and the group understanding that. And you have to, if you're a Catalans player, to be successful, you have to live, breathe better than all the other players in the competition, because you don't have much time to prepare and train, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it when we talked about Project Catalan and you putting them on the map. Like I say, to the improvement that was made in Catalan under your tenure is just simply incredible. But not just that. What we saw from this side of the channel was your passion for French Rugby League. You were again not just a Catalan, but you were a big spokesman for French Rugby League. And of course, what you achieved at Catalan, right from the get-go, is you were very quick to ensure that the pathways for French players was there at Catalan, even to your departure. Players such as Mathieu Laguerre, as an example, Romano, who I think was there in your first squad, Artem Morg, Bousquet, etc., etc. There's still rumblings now. Should Catalan be in? Should Catalan be out? Over the year, I mean, I know you're going to be passionate about it staying in and French Rugby League still, but over the year, I mean, from somebody who's represented Catalan and French Rugby League, why is it so important that, one, they remain in Super League, but also that we continue to develop these French players?
Yeah, look, regardless of my situation now, you'll never get a bigger supporter of Catalans being in the competition than the support for French. That's a given. That will always be there, because I've experienced firsthand, what everybody goes through across there. And those French players that you're talking about, and there's lots of those French players, don't get me wrong, their commitment to being the best they can be. When I first got there, we were a bit of a mess. We were a bit of a mess physically and everything else that goes with it. But we brought some great staff in. Rich Unwicks came across there initially when it was Rob Parkinson, who was the physio. We got things going, and that, over time that developed, and some of those people left, and other ones came in. But the constant, what the French players, in particular, the French players, they got to as professional as any group of players that I've coached. You know, someone like Archie Romano, you know, you can debate whether he's the best player or this or that, whether he's fastest, he's not this and that. But what you can't debate is how professional he is, and he gets the most out of himself. You know, and the best example of someone like that is Kevin Sinfield. Never the biggest, never the strongest, never the fastest type player, but made a career and was, you know, one of the world's best players by maximising what he could get. Those French boys wanted that, needed that, went up path along that. There were some great mentors along the way. When you get McAlorum in and you get, you know, Sam Tompkins in to help lead the way there, and the coaching staff showed them the way. But it has to be there. It has to be there. Our game is small enough as it is. Don't shrink it again by taking out, you know, what, you know, of course it's a little bit of a tough period right now for Catalans, but it's temporary. You know, it'll come back, it'll change there again. And I'm sure there's many, many young French players waiting for their opportunities at the Catalan Dragons and into Super League, and hopefully improve the national team. But that was one of my big bugbears as well. Like, part of Catalans going in the competition was to improve the national team. Well, how come one team on its own?
Yeah.
Basically, it's like saying to Warrington, you're responsible for the national team of England being the best it can be. It's very, very difficult. So there were some tasks there what the club had to take on, what maybe we didn't quite achieve in terms of some of that. But honestly, those French players, I cannot speak highly enough of a group of French players, you know, led by, you know, Ben Garcia, the captain at the time, people like Julian Busquet, who have been absolute rocks throughout the whole of the time that I've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben Garcia, for me, one of the best. I'll say 13, Steve, on that. You know, we slip and slide. You've mentioned him, so let's slip and slide. Ben Garcia to 9 from the outside looking in, and of course, Ollie Pines are coming in. A ferocious defender. I mean, incredible in defence is Ollie. He's massive strength in his game. But, you know, Ben Garcia to 9, that surprised a lot of people this year. Just talk us quickly about that. Why Garcia to 9?
Yeah, look, Ollie became available. You know, we were out looking for a 9, looking for a 13. You know, we needed to bring somebody in. Ollie was the very best player available. Benny Garcia had flirted a couple of times at playing at hooker. You know, his best position is 13, but he can play second row as well as that. He can play a hooker as well as that. He would always offer, Steve, if you're getting outside back, throw me out there. I've got it all covered. So Ben's that type of character and that type of player. And I just thought Ollie would certainly strengthen our group. It was potentially moving Benny out of his favourite position into another position. But Benny was willing to take that on.
Fair enough. And of course, the other one, whilst we're talking about in-season departures, Arthur Morg, which again surprised a lot of people, got over to KR, playing he's a wonderful player, we know that. But he never seemed to get a position at Catalan. You know, I mean, there was the Sam Tompkins factor at 1. He played a bit at 1. I know he got I think it was the number 7 shirt this year, didn't he? For yourself. And then, of course, he was moved on. Surprised a lot of people. Was that because Espiro Bichet was coming behind him and you had high hopes for him and you thought it could be covered? Just talk, because that again confused a lot of people at the time.
Yeah, no, that was a difficult period of time. Obviously, as the coach, I didn't want Archie to go, but at the same time, we also understood the club's position at that time. Look, the club was getting squeezed financially from every single angle. You know, paying for everyone's travel costs this year. Yes. We won the Challenge Cup in 2018. It was the best thing that had ever happened. Then we got blamed for the crowd being low, and then we got told if you want to enter the Challenge Cup moving forward, we have to pay for the travel, you know, for the hotels. If BBC want to televise the game in France, and we have to pay for the expense of that coming across as well. Then you add that onto every single game in the Super League. You imagine it's astronomical, you know, the bill that the Catalans have to pay. So sometimes as a coach, you have to, although you might not agree and want that to happen, you have to have some understanding and go, you know what? Yeah, I understand from your perspective that we probably need to, you know, we could get a transfer fee for that. We've got a couple of other players coming through who can play that position. So you sometimes you have to go with it. And like I said, I understood more than most the financial position of the Dragons at that stage, and it was unfortunate for the team. You know, I had Carey, Moore, Tompkins being the 3 there, and you know, in reality, Sam got injured in the Challenge Cup game before round 1. Archer left, I think it was 5-6 rounds into the competition, so we never really got that group together. I think if we could have done, then obviously it could have been slightly different.
Yeah, he's a wonderful player, Morg. Really, really like Morg. How excited should Super League be though about Bichet? Because for me, again against Warrington at the weekend, there's a lot of talent in that lad.
Yeah.
He looks a really good prospect.
Yeah, he is. Obviously, a lot of people are aware that when France beat the English Academy, and Harry Robertson was a great player for Saints. Now was playing in that team for England. I think Aaron Lindop was in that team for England.
Yeah.
And Guillermo was in the French team. And Guillermo played fullback and he was brilliant in that game. He was man of the match in that game. And so we knew there was a talent there coming through. Still not 100% sure in his best position. He's got, he played his junior football rugby at loose forward. He's played international at fullback. We think he might be a centre. He could be a sixth, but he's certainly a very talented kid and a bright kid, an educated kid, a smart kid as well as a student. And he's got a very bright future ahead of himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this stage, let him just go and enjoy his rugby league. He's been a privilege to watch, thus far this season. Right. Just in one word, if you can, I picked out a couple of guilty pleasures, no more so than the first one I'm going to say to you. Just describe some of these players that have played for you at Catalan in a word, if you can. It's tough, but one word. I'm going to hold you to one word. This is a guilty pleasure. Sammy Soni-Lange.
Loyal.
Great player. Love Lange. Thought he was great. Remy Casti.
Robust.
Sam Tompkins.
Competitive.
Benny Garcia.
Ferocious.
Julian Busquet.
Consistent.
Mark McMeekin.
Oh. Mike, he's just a few words, mate. I think he's playing the best. I think he's up there with the best players in the competition this year. But great signing. I'll just say that. Great signing.
He represented your club with distinction. Yeah. Absolutely. Great lad as well. Met him on a few occasions.
Yeah.
James Maloney.
Genius in terms of his knowledge of rugby league. Genius.
Josh Drinkwater.
Very. Josh. Look, rather than just one way, Josh came at a period for us when we really needed an halfback. It's a bit of a longer story, this, but I'll tell you, we started the 2000, we'd survived £17 million game. 2018, we start the season. It's not going great. I think we'd only won 2 games out of the first 7. And then we got to about 2 from 11. We signed Josh Drinkwater. We kicked a drop goal in the first game against Hull FC and then led us to Wembley. So, saviour in some regard.
Saviour.
He'll like that. He'll like that, Drink. He'll like that. So, the saviour. Yeah.
Oh, good times. Right. You did what Tony Smith did for Warrington. When Tony Smith came to Warrington, Warrington were nowhere, absolutely nowhere, and somehow in 2009 got us a Challenge Cup. Unbelievable. And you did exactly the same against Warrington. Cheers for that, Steve. But a great win. I mean, nobody had. I mean, Warrington went into that favourite, no doubt about that whatsoever. A 20 points to 14 win. Magnificent, absolutely magnificent. One of your, I'm going to have a guess here. Is that perhaps to this day your best achievement? I mean, obviously, not including the international. That's a different gravy altogether. But certainly, as a coach in Super League, that's got to be your number one achievement, surely.
Yeah, when you're at a club like Catalans, when you can be the first to do something as well, that's important. So you've not won a trophy as a club. You're only less than 20 years old at that stage. You've not won a trophy. And can you be the first person to be part of that? I remember we were trying to sign Sam Tompkins for the year after, and I was telling Sam, we want you to be part of the first team that wins a trophy. Lo and behold, we win it before he arrives. We get that. So. But things sort of went our way that way because we'd had a terrible start to the season. Josh Drinkwater came in, like I said, we started winning games. We hit the semi-final when we annihilated St Helens, to be honest with you, at a stage when no one thought anyone could touch St Helens. Justin Albrook was there and we beat him at Bolton. I think we were 29-0 up at some point in that game. And the confidence that the players got from that, we actually, in between the semi-final and the final, we managed to secure the top sort of 8 or 6. I can't remember what it was there, but if he was in the bottom 4, you had to go play off again for £1 million game, and we secured that until we could rest players going into the final, and then we produced another great performance in the final. So yeah, look, them scenes will be, and I'm sure we'll celebrate them in years to come in terms of reunions and that. But to be part of a first that can do something for the club, it was, and to see some of the old people, when you went back to France, who fought so hard to keep the game alive in France, that was sensational to see.
I mean, again, we've already given kudos to Lee and to KR in terms of, and Bradford in terms of, their pre-game, etc. The Catalan Dragons fans, I mean, unless people have got over the Catalan, they won't get it. I mean, it is a cauldron when it's on form. I mean, scenes of playoff games where, you've got the flares outside and all of that. I mean, let's be fair, we give a lot of kudos to the likes of Lee, etc. Catalan are right up there in terms of building up a big game, aren't they?
Right up there, right up there. It's like, I think Brian Carney once described it as like a European football night in Galatasaray, the flair, the whistles, the different type of environment, the heat, everything that goes with it. And it's a brilliant place to go. The fans love going, the players like going there and playing there. That's what I'm saying. There's so much riding there on it. It's so successful, when it's at its best. And we managed to get home semi-finals 2 of the years we were there. We played Ulkia the first year we went to the grand final. We played St Helens when Sam Tompkins scored the sensational try at the end there to take us to our second grand final in 3 years. And those nights, when you talk about memories there, along with playing at the Nou Camp, which is that is out there on its own there as well, are some of the best memories that you will ever have in terms of rugby league.
Yeah, you can't underestimate the impact of that type of fanfare, because I mean, I remember back in the Ferguson days, the Cantona days at United, they went to Galatasaray, and I think they either lost or drew over there, and there were scenes of them coming off the plane on the bus and the flares and the intimidation. If it's done in the right way, any player that is not mentally strong, that before the ball even gets kicked, can have a massive impact, can't it?
Yeah, it can. And that's not just the ground in Catalans. That was, you go to Ulkia's ground now, that's getting a really strong reputation, isn't it? Some of the other places, the South Stand at Headingley, those types of things. But without doubt, it's unique and it's different. And those fans, they're so loyal. And that's why by winning at Wembley, when we won at Wembley, it opened the door to play at the Nou Camp. And I remember sat with Bernard, and Bernard said to me, what do you think, Steve? Would you fancy playing at the Nou Camp, Camp Nou? It's like, Bernard, if we can do that, let's go. And he said, that's okay, but it'll be cost around about €1 million. I was like, well, we can't do it. We can't do it. And I remember him saying, some things in life are always worth trying and worth doing regardless. He said, let's have a go at it. Let's do it. And then the commercial team, the marketing team went into play. And that trip down to the Camp Nou, that's like the holy grail, if you like, for a Catalan. Like it's like, it is. And it was just like the old days when you drive down to Wembley on the bus, you down the M1 and all the people at the service stations. It was like that, Catalans all the way down. We stayed at Girona, between Girona and Barcelona, and then going into that. And that's what winning the Challenge Cup put us on the map, if you like, in French Rugby League, brought the interest there from the president of the Barcelona Football Club, gave us another opportunity, a golden opportunity to do something special. And obviously Wigan were the team who played there. They got a chance to do it as well. And they were superb as well, both on and off the field.
Remember the game well. Like I say, would have meant a lot to the Catalonians without question. You mentioned it, so again, we'll slip and we'll slide. Saints. I mean, in fact, actually, we talk about iconic games outside of the Wembley win. As somebody who doesn't support the Catalan Dragons, Saints, for me, there's 2 games and they're both St Helens. The one that you've just mentioned, the semi-final in 23, it had to be Sam Tompkins. Wonderful step, wonderful try, absolutely incredible. But let's not forget the I think it was the 2021 Magic Weekend, where I think 10 minutes to go, you're dead and you're buried, and somehow Big Sam Cassie out 31-30. Back come the drag. Was that, again, as a coach, adrenaline, all that type of stuff? Was that one of the biggest surges of adrenaline ever as a coach to come back and win that?
Yeah, and we spoke about the 2013 World Cup with England coach. It's the opposite end of the scale to that.
Yeah.
like it was such a big game because we win league leaders. It's, you know, and that is, like I said, it's, you know, of all of the things you can do as a Catalan team, if you are league leaders, to be the most consistent team in the competition, but we just didn't get it quite right on that day. And I remember I was busting to go to the toilet in the stand 10 minutes to go, or 5 minutes to go, whatever it was, 4 minutes to go. We score that first try. I'm coming down. I was still, you know, so I'll go to the toilet. As I'm coming out the toilet, go back through the tunnel, I hear everyone cheering and see Gil Dudson running back the other way. I'm thinking, shit, we scored again here. And obviously I come out, and then we go into the final minute, and the drama of that, and, you know, Big Sam there reaching up there, and Jimmy Maloney's got to kick all his goals at that point there as well. Like, and he's nailed every single one of them. They've gone straight down the middle, and you're thinking, geez, we could be our day here finally. But that was, of all the comebacks, I don't think you'll ever see a comeback like that again. That was something really, really special. And then to go into Golden Point, and you talk about Jimmy, I also mentioned the word about calling him a genius earlier on. I mean, in that Golden Point, he threw a pass on our own trial, and what was just come up with an error, and he just forgets about it. So we move on. We get another chance with the ball, and he kicks one from nearly 45 meters out to win the league leaders, and that was Jimmy. But yeah, what an experience that was again. I mean, and it's good. I'm glad I'm talking about this because you know, you lose your job, and you know, you look whatever, and you go back. Wow, you just start reliving some of these things there that was so special. We had a special group of people at that stage, without a doubt.
Yeah, mate, it's right that we're talking about this because, you know, at the end of the day, let's not forget the achievements. And the achievements were incredible. I mean, and every neutral, I mean, the one thing about Catalan is more often than not, a lot of the time, when they get into finals and when they get, like at things at Magic Weekend, it's probably your biggest crowd because most neutrals tend to back Catalan, especially if they're playing St. Helens. And again, I think the fact that it was Saints, I think, you know, that made it even more a massive comeback because you don't see that. You don't see Saints with such a commanding lead. And it wasn't about Saints. And you'll hear me say this if you watch our programmes. Sometimes it's all about, oh, Saints this, Saints that. You know, when Wigan lose to Wakefield Trinity, oh, it's Wigan this, it's Wigan that. No, it's not. It's Wakefield Trinity. It's Catalan Dragons.
Yeah.
You know, for me, these teams on their day, if they're the best team, forget the other opposition. They should be celebrated and applauded.
Yeah, that's it. It's just a really good point there. That's the same as when you pick a player or don't pick a player. Sometimes a coach can not pick a player. Oh, he can't do that. He can't do that. But look at what he can do rather than what he can't do, and pick the player. And that's exactly what you're saying. People like to look at the opposition and go, like we went that St. Helens semi-final to start with, to go to Wembley. We dismantled them. Like our game planning was superb, attack and defence for that. You know, that was that. The Magic one, that was a bit different. You know, that was wow, that was just you know, they probably deserved to win that game. And sometimes in rugby league's not quite fair. Sometimes that happens. But yeah, we just for the sheer last 4.5 minutes, it was yeah, you will never get. I don't think you'll ever get a finish like that again in the competition. I've had a couple of magic moments, and the one back. I don't remember the Bradford Leeds one when Jordan Tansey scored the try and stuff like that. So, but magic always seems to bring something out, doesn't it? For one of the things.
It's a great occasion, Steve. And again, for me, it's a non-negotiable. It has to stay. It's for the fans, for the game, for it's just a wonderful experience, Magic Weekend. And when the NRL pinch a British idea and keep it and run with it, you know, it's the right idea. It's just got to be left alone. Before we get on to this year, you mentioned 21 and 23, you know, 2 grand finals in 3 years. And I think, you know, again, it says a lot about the Catalan Dragons that, you know, neither of those finals were blowouts. Both of those finals were competitive. Saints 6-4, right in the game. Wigan 10-2. I mean, arguably, the first half against Wigan, you were the better team. You just didn't take your opportunities that day. I won't say the word regret because, you know, sport is sport, but you came close, didn't you? I mean, it was a really good effort on your part.
Oh, look. If you'd have said you'll get to 2 grand finals in 3 years, and in total you'll concede 3 tries in 2 grand finals, would you take it or not? 3 tries conceded total in 2 games. You go, well, I'll take that. But surely we'll win one of those games. That's how hard it is at the highest level. And Ulcar experienced it last year. Again, you would say, again, going into our second grand final, you concede 1 try against Wigan. Would you take it? You probably would. Ulcar concede 1 try and lose. It's so hard. It's so hard to actually get that little bit across the line. I thought the first game against St Helens. I thought we actually probably played slightly better in that game than the second grand final. I think there's a couple of controversial things in that what just didn't quite go our way, but it didn't, and that's sport, and that's how it goes. The second one, well, we had 2 sin binnings, we had 2 yellow cards, and we played 8. We only conceded 1 try, like I said there, but we just didn't throw. We couldn't throw enough attack at Wigan. We had a lot of energy taken out of ourselves, and I thought we were primed, ready for that one. I thought we could win both games, to be honest with you, but the second one, we were all out for it, all in for it. But unfortunately, like I said, that again, at the highest level of sport, it's just a fraction. It's a one slip up. It's like that, and the game can go away from you. And it's not regrets, because I remember Scott Giroux. Remember Scott Giroux, the player?
Yeah.
Was awesome, and for the Catalans. And I remember after the first grand, or before the first grand final, he texted and said, "Steve, I played at Catalans. I thought it was impossible a Catalans team could get to a grand final. Not only is it difficult for every team in the competition, but for us, traveling across there as well, it was even more so. So to get there is pleasing, but yeah, it's not a regret, but it's a huge disappointment that we didn't ice at least one of those games."
Yeah, absolutely. No, couldn't agree with you more. And of course, because of those highs, because let's be fair, it was an unprecedented 3 years there for Catalan. Really, really competitive and getting to grand finals. It's fair to say last year and of course this year, things became a little bit more tricky for the Dragons in terms of results on the field.
Yeah.
2025, let's now focus on this year. So 2025, again, outside looking in, some big losses. Mike McMeekin, you just said, playing some of his best rugby at Wakefield. And I spoke to Mike, I did an in-combo with him. And at the time, the in-combo, he wasn't sure what he was going to do. Tom Davies, of course, Mickey Mack, and Tom Johnstone, 4 big players there depart the Catalan Dragons, which again, from the outside looking in, you're going, certainly in the... Mickey Mack, yeah, okay, at that stage of his career, but the other 3, you're thinking, that's a bit interesting. Walk us through that. I mean, were they offered contracts? Was it a case of, again, was it salary cap? What was it? Why was it decided that they were moving on? Did the players decide to move on?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons. Obviously, if you're living abroad, it might not be for everybody for a long period of time as well. So that is the challenge as well. And with the Brexit as well, it's very, very difficult for the partners to work as well across there. So imagine you're a 25-year-old lad with a 23, 4, 5-year-old girlfriend, and she wants to work, but she wants to live with you across there as well. Things like that can come into play. Like, they need careers as well. You might need to come back for a certain reason. You might have kids what are going into a certain age at school, and that, all of those things that can get factored in. So again, there's different types of challenges for a team that's outside of the country, particularly a country what's a non-English speaking country as well. The challenges for the children at school. So there's all of that. But in reality, recruitment, retainment is a huge. It's the biggest aspect of what can be done. And we didn't manage to keep hold of those. I think Tyrone May going there was losing Tyrone was a loss as well. So we had to rebuild after the 21 grand final. It took us a year there, 22, to really sort of overcome that and get back into 23. And probably in hindsight, looking on now, I said this after the grand final. I was like all on for 20, for that grand final 23. At that stage, our sporting director Neil McRoy was leaving to go to Montpellier Rugby Union. So we probably didn't quite plan and prepare as well as a club, as a whole club, probably for the 24 season, and then obviously 25. It just didn't happen. We had a great pre-season 25. I'll say that we did, but we just didn't quite get it right. At the start of the season, we had a little bit of adversity there. Losing Sam Tompkins there. Obviously, we spoke about Archie Moore going, and then going through towards the semi-final. We lost Ben Garcia at Magic, going into a crucial period of time. So, number of reasons for players staying and going, but particularly again when you add the complexities of living in France, playing in France, family, children, all of those types of things. Getting the team, a strong team, and then keeping that team together. is a big challenge.
Again, outside looking in, Sam Tompkins, massive risk. I mean, we know his knee's shot. He's pretty one of the worst kept secrets in rugby league. I think everybody says he's really struggling even now. I believe is what rumours are saying. Big risk to bring him back out of retirement. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Do you stand by that one?
Yeah, see, Sam was still around the club. He retired. He was around the club. This is in 24. Things, we were struggling a little bit. Sam was fit. His knee was feeling great. And the issue that he had this year wasn't his bad knee. He got an infection in his other knee, which was a horrendous infection, which was after we played Salford at home. I think it was in the cup game. We played him at home. He got a scratch. He got an infection. And honestly, the illness that he got on the back of that, we kept thinking he'd be right in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but he ended up having an operation to get that taken out. It was horrible, honestly. So it's funny, it's not his bad knee, what's got him, it's the other side there. But do I regret it? No, because at the time, I thought it was the best option. I thought he was the importance to our team, and he still is, if he's fit. But ultimately, I think that infection, his other knee might be a little bit sore again now, but he's such a competitive, influential player. And at that stage, I felt it was the best option that we possibly had. That I don't, in hindsight, regret making that decision. The only regret I would have is if Sam's health, and I don't want him anything tarnishing what he's done in the game just by the way he is right now. It's Sam, and that's a credit to him there again. It's not about his ego. He's put his hand up to do something there, to try and do something really special, and not worried about the impact on anything else. So the important thing now is that he's healthy, and he's got a great career moving forward in the media, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, obviously, we had you finishing really well this year. You looked at who you brought in. I mean, Luke Keary, case in point. Luke's career in the NRL is just different level. We know Luke Keary on his best day. We actually said if he could come and play really well, he was a Man of Steel contender because he is that good as a player. Of course, Elliot Whitehead coming back as well. I'm just going to say it from the outside looking in, Steve. They haven't performed, and for me, whether that don't know what the reasons are around that, but those signings, they haven't delivered what you or Catalan at that moment in time required did for me. But over to you. I mean, I know you won't shoot on, I don't expect you to, but for me personally, I just think that you looked at your roster this year, they are playing way below the standards of the players that they are.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And that's why decisions were made and etc. And I'm no longer there at that stage. I think there was. I certainly am not going to criticise any of those players personally. I think Luke Keary, he showed it in pre-season training. His knowledge of the game is sensational. I do feel he's a player that, again, with a Tompkins and a Morg around him, I think you would have seen a completely different player there as well. But yeah, we had some troubles with the problem was we lost round 1 at home. Put ourselves under a lot of pressure there with a couple of away games after that at Leigh and Warrington, which were tough there, Warrington and Leigh. And then we had to rescue our season in some regards. I think we won 6 from 7 from that point, and we managed to drag ourselves through and get through to a semi-final of a Challenge Cup. But in reality, that group of players, we didn't. Although I felt we'd had a really good pre-season, like I said, I felt we were strong and fit and ready to go there. For one reason, that we didn't manage to combine well enough and get that as a collective, playing to the ability it should have done.
Like I said, I mean, and of course, often you see it's the coach that gets moved on. But I reiterate, I think that when you're talking about the players of the caliber of these players, for me, they weren't playing to their level, and that there's got to be accountability on their part as well. Because for me, again, I can say this: I think they sort of let you down, and I'm sure you don't feel that way. But as an outsider, that's how I feel. I just think they could have given so much more, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen. pressure mounts, and in the media, they feed off it. And, there was the outburst after the semi-final, which, was a factual point. And I know you over the years have said that you believe that Catalan, often get a bit of the wrong rub of the green, and you've questioned that, not just after the semi-final this year, but you've been quite vocal over the years. And today you've said the same in terms of the challenges that are put on Catalan from the governing body, etc. And then, of course, the Saints game where it wasn't a good day at the office. You were the first to put your hand up on that. And the post-match with Jenna, and you just felt that pressure was coming. But in that post-match, did you have any inkling that your departure was imminent?
No. I think I've had constant dialogue with Bernard. He's been awesome for me, throughout the whole time that I've been there. Like, we've had some good moments, we've had some not so good moments, but that's the president to coach there, and he's been great. But yeah, it was an extremely difficult period. Like I said, we'd come through the, 1-6 from 7, and then we lost that magic by 2 points to Lee. We stayed in England to try and prepare the best that we could for that semi-final. And we, unfortunately, half time was right in it, but the second half we weren't good enough. And then we flew home. It was my decision that we flew home. We could have stayed between the semi and the Saints game or this and that, but I wanted to give us the best chance to win the semi-final. We flew home, obviously pretty despondent, after losing the semi-final. We had to fly back 3 days after and play a Saints team that was probably under pressure themselves. I remember all pre-match, it would talk about Paul Wellens. That's what it was pre-match. Post-match, it flipped to me. And then obviously the following week, then informed me that the time's up. So, but no, I didn't have an inkling as such there about it, but it happens, and like I said, it's part of being a coach, and you've got to accept that.
Yeah, it's interesting then. So it was a pretty quick decision from your perspective. You had no idea. And you mentioned Paul Wellens there. Saints have held the nerve. We've been laughing all year in terms of some of the nonsense around Paul Wellens. Absolute nonsense. You've got to take into account injuries and this, that, the other. And at no point, they've been in the top 6 for most of the season. And you've got people coming out vying for his head. Now all of a sudden, the Wellens has completely and utterly gone down, and he's, new contracts are being talked about. It's ridiculous. But when you left Catalan, you're sitting in 8th. You've got 10 points. You're 2 off the top 6. You've got this longevity with the club of success. Why? Did you ask Bernard that? Why? It seems knee-jerk so early in the season when you're right. Look at Sam. Sam Burgess and Warwick Wolves, who spends more than them. Yeah, they were beneath you.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and I get all those points, and if I wanted to defend myself and all of that type of stuff, you go through that. But look, we're all in positions to make decisions, and the president's in the position to make what he feels is the best decision at the time. We've been through some, like I said, some tough periods. Throughout the whole time I've been there, been some tough periods, but come out the other side of it, and obviously for him, it was time to make that decision. That's not my thingy to talk about. My bit is to talk about what we did there during that period and how it looked, and I was confident that we would come back after that Saints game. I felt like we would get a response. I felt like we would respond from that and come through the other side of that. But for Bernard, obviously, and that wasn't the case.
Rugby league players, you were one. I always say toughest, from the, and we all know us as men, let's be absolutely fair. We might put on the big bravado and that we're tough, but deep down, you cut us, we bleed, and, we've got emotions, etc. How disappointed were you, Steve, really? With what you've achieved, for it to end so quickly then, by what you're saying. I've been very respectful, as you know. We've been speaking about this since Magic, and we've left it till now. Has it been, for you to mentally get over this, has it been a difficult process?
Yeah, because you invest your life into a job like this. You can't dip your toe in. You go all in. You go all in. And look, I've had the best journey in the last. Well, it was a few weeks short of 8 years at the Catalan Dragons club. If you told me the day I signed for them that you're 8 years on, you would be where you were at. You've done this, we've done that, we've achieved that. and that his last 8 years had a snatch your hand off. Like, it was an incredible journey. We spoke about a lot of those parts of that journey along the way. I'm grateful for every member of staff that's worked with me along the way, every single player that's invested everything. Bernard, the board of directors, everybody who invested for a long period of time. So of course, when it comes to that point, it's like a death, in some regards. It's, you've invested everything, you've worked so well together, but it comes to an end. All good things come to an end at some point, and that was the end there for me. So yeah, of course it's difficult. Of course you feel you can go on. Of course you feel you can turn it around. But like I said, that decision was made. So, but I can't, like I said, reiterate enough. I hope this comes out, and the way it comes out, where it should be. That, like, I am so grateful for everybody, the investment that they made, and me being the coach there. That's every single member of staff, player, everybody involved, their supporters, the partners, the sponsors there. It was a journey of nearly 8 years that, like I said, I could not have dreamed of when we first set off on that journey.
Yeah, and of course, behind every man is a family, and I'm sure they've given you a lot of comfort over this time and help you to process that as well. And they themselves will be hurt for you, won't they? Because again, like me, looking at Steve McNamara's career in France, it's an incredible success story, what you've achieved. And they must have also felt the hurt that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, they do. That's what, families are there, aren't they? They support you through thick and thin, and they probably tell you when, they're probably your harshest critics as well, at the same time as well. But of course, there's a bond there, and but what what the opportunity has done is it gives you a chance to spend a little bit more time with them, and go watch Ben play and be a Leaf fan for a few weeks, and and see what happens there on the back of that. But it's been different. You're on a treadmill as a head coach. You are on this consistent treadmill. Like, it just does not stop day in, day out. And then whilst it's good to get off and have a little bit of a break, you miss the order of the day, the getting up. This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. All of that type of stuff, the routines. I'm sure every coach who's experienced this and will experience this moving forward will tell you.
Absolutely, and we'll get onto that in a minute to end. But yeah, enjoy it is what I would say, because you talk about other players, and you talked about these younger players, and the future's so bright for Super League with the like. I mean, you met Aaron Lindop at Warrington.
Yeah.
We talked about Bichet there at Catalan. I mean, Dagnall at Saints. I mean, there's so many great players that are coming through, and of course, not all of their dads will have played rugby league. They can go and watch their sons play every single day. So enjoy it. I mean, this is something that you've not been able to do. So for however long you're going to be out, absolutely, it's great to see you on Saturday enjoying Ben's career, and I'm sure he's loving having his dad in the stands, because let's be fair, unless he's in the opposition and the family rivalries there, he's probably not had you on his side in terms of a result for many a year. So it's a good time, isn't it?
Blame him for me getting the sack. He scored that bloody try at Magic and kicked all his goals, and we lose by 2 points. So, but joking apart, he's really, really proud to see him doing his stuff there. But yeah, you're right. You get those opportunities to rock up at a game. It's funny, turned up and had a ham and cheese sandwich in Morrison's Cafe. Normally you turn up on the executive bus, don't you, and you do this and that as a coach. But yeah, just to go as a normal fan, it's been great for the last few weeks. I'll be there at St Helens this Thursday night. Go watch him there again, as long as he's picked.
Well, hopefully I'll see you at the Warrington game on the 1st of August. If you're not elsewhere, again, we'll get to that in a minute. But you got a lovely reception as well. I saw so many people come over and shake your buddy hand and wish you well, which was, again, what our community as rugby league is all about. Right, couple of little possibly a little bit, couple of spiky ones now, but I'm sure we'll be all right before we finish off. We talked about how words can be interpreted. One of the things that made me filthy, and I can say this, filthy, was when Sam Tompkins on Sky said that Joel would be harder to please. Now, you would probably defend Sam and say probably the wrong use of words. But is Joel Tompkins harder to please than Steve McNamara, considering what you've achieved in the game as a coach?
I think probably Sam's just talking about his character. I mean, I brought Joel on board as an assistant coach, partly because of his character. He was a different character to me. He was coming to head up our defensive side of things. We needed a little bit of edge about that from the previous year. So in these situations, you can be so touchy on a word said this way or a word said that way. and if you're not careful, you can send yourself into spirals. So Sam was meaning that in the most honest way that he could probably. It's his brother. He knows his brother. He knows his brother's traits there. Look, we don't achieve what we achieved at Catalans without being disciplined. Don't let me tell you about that, because you can't do what we did without that. So we had a great group there, but I understand what he was saying there. And Joel's job was on the defensive side to get into the players.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I appreciate your support. I appreciate your support.
I just think it was for me. And again, I'm going to say this. I think for somebody like Sam, with his experience, with his IQ in the media, I expect better from Sam. I really do. I just think, again, it was a comment that wasn't necessary. Yes, back your brother. Of course, you're going to back your brother. But yeah, it just I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Again, and I think probably it was a bit spiky going into my next question. I think the reason why I was probably also very disappointed, because I do believe that we are all judged by our character, and we're all judged by the way in which we win and we lose. And because Catalan had not put a statement out, and we're hearing from Sam, we're hearing from Joe, I was filthy over that, because there's certain departures over the years. I mean, Lee Radford at Hull FC being sacked straight after a Warrington game, I thought that was just shocking at the time. And as a human being, I found it really distasteful. And I found that distasteful. Why did it take so long for Catalan Dragons to finally announce your departure? Everybody wants to know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you asked the club that, 'cause it's not my job to do that. But of course, whenever there's a situation arises like that, there's a negotiation, a talk to be had between the player and the club regarding, I'm under contract, then I'm under contract. And the French law is slightly different to what the English law is. So yeah, across there in England, we used to, probably like Danny Maguire last week, the announcements, made and done, and it's all done and dusted. So it is slightly different across there. So there's some understanding there from me in terms of why that took so long. It was frustrating, because everybody knew, I'd left. Everybody knew I wasn't the coach. I was, I wasn't there. Joe was, was taking the team and doing the pre-match and post-match and everything else. But it's more from a French legal sort of side of thing there, if you like, there. And I think once we got that agreement done, then the club could announce obviously my departure, at that point.
So we cleared up the legalities. So now let's talk about the announcement. I sent you a message, still filthy. Lackluster was the word I used. For a man who has given so much to French Rugby League, to Catalan Dragons as a club, the achievements that you have made, for you to get 3 paragraphs that quite simply, and actually omit a League Leaders Shield. Let's not forget that. So whoever the press guy was who released that, we omitted another great achievement, which was the League Leaders Shield from the initial announcement. I was filthy over it. So yeah, okay, there's legalities, but
yeah,
surely, Steve, they should have given you a better fanfare than that.
Well, look, that's the club's prerogative in terms of how they announce it and what they announce. I certainly, from my side of things now, like I said, this is the first time I've spoke about it. Out respect for everybody involved in it. But like I said, I can't tell you enough what an amazing 8 years that has been for me. That journey has been for me. I can only speak from my perspective and the support I've been given and was given, from so many people for such a long period of time. And, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. So, maybe in time, something else, might get spoken about, but I can't speak from the club's perspective. Only the fact from my side of things there that, I'm not bitter or anything like that. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with, I'm not the Catalans coach anymore, but c'est la vie, as they say in France, and we move on, and I'll be ready to move on to a challenge what will excite me, and that's what I'm looking for at this stage. So let's look forward rather than looking back at this stage. But I am sure over a period of time I will return to Catalans. I will be back at that club. I will be able to thank people in person there for everything that club has given me for 8 years.
You should get a hero's welcome, Steve, because where would that club be? I think the amount of blood, sweat, and tears you put into it, and the results speak for themselves. You did deserve better. I will say that. I know that you've got to watch your P's and Q's, and it's great. And again, it just shows the man that you are. But yeah, you deserve so much better than 3 paragraphs like that, especially after the time. I think as well, because of the time taken between you obviously leaving and the announcement,
Yeah.
it would have been a nice thing to make it up a little bit and get the legality piece to really give you the glowing tribute that you deserved. And I think all rugby league enthusiasts, certainly our community, share my view on that. You deserved a lot better. Speaking of the future, let's close on that then. And then we have looked back on a lot of good, Steve. Let's be honest. This has been a very short part of this interview. I think some journalists would have gone all in on this and just kept asking you the questions 5 times to get the same answer. We don't do that here on Super League Raw. But what I would say to you is this. You must be inundated with offers. I mean, to put this in, Steve, for those who don't know, he's at the top table. He is at the top table. I want to throw a couple of names out. You're talking Tony Smith. Arguably one of the most successful and revered coaches in the British game, 60% win ratio. Brad Arthur now at Leeds, he's got a 53% win ratio in his career, 60% at Leeds. Darryl Powell, been around a long time, had, very similar career to you in terms of, he's had his opportunity at Warrington, but, been in and around lower teams. He sits at 60. Paul Roller, taking out this season, he sits at 50. Steve McNamara is 58% win ratio. And when you take into account Bradford, Catalan, in its early days as well, not just the last 2 seasons, that stands up. That's top table. That is exceptional level of coaching. We know Castleford's available. There's a massive rumour around Leeds. Is Brad staying? Is Brad going? If he's going, by all accounts, Steve, you're already there. We know Sam Burgess leaves Warrington next season. Is there an itch? How long do you want to just have this sabbatical with Ben? When do you think you'll be back? Talk to us about that.
Huge itch, huge passion, huge drive, huge energy for whatever the next project is. And without doubt, that project for me needs to be something what's challenging, exciting, potentially different. I don't know, but it's something there that needs, a bit like the Catalan's job for me when I was in New Zealand. When that one came up, it was like, wow, this is something that I want to do. This is something I must do. This is something that I want to invest everything in. And regardless of what that opportunity is and presents itself, and when that opportunity presents itself, I will be all in, absolutely all in, ready to, to do something special again if we possibly can, with whatever team, whatever sport that may be.
Will that be 2025, do you believe? Or if you were to return to head coaching in the British game, do you see that as a fresh slate? Would you want to wait to 2026 to start the pre-season and to do it that way? Or would you go back in now for the right project?
You can't answer yes or no to that because it depends on what that opportunity is and everything else. So I'm open to all of that. Without a doubt, I'm open to all of that. But I just know that, I am ready to go. Like I'm ready. Like I've had a rest, I've had a break, I've had and if I need to continue having that, I will find some really interesting things to do during that period of time. I've got some good friends and some good contacts in all sports, different countries everywhere, and I'll utilize that time fully until that opportunity comes along. But I just don't know at this stage. I just really don't know at this stage. But I know that, like I said, it was probably a couple of times in my career after the 2013 disappointment in the World Cup. It had to be something new, exciting. Potentially that was Bath Rugby Union at that stage, but it ended up being the Roosters in Sydney.
Yeah.
When I was at the Warriors, it was the Catalan Dragons. So I don't know what that will be at any given stage, but I'll be ready.
And coaching, 100%, you will be back somewhere in a coaching capacity, head coach at some point.
Well, I'd like to think so, but again, you have to have the trust from somebody to give you that opportunity there as well. But certainly that's my intention.
I reiterate, 58% win ratio. I think you'll be fine. Can I just?
I think I might employ you as my manager. By sounds, you've done a really good job there tonight.
Hey, if you want to start the bribery, Steve, start the bribery. What I would say as well, just in closing, England. If Sean departs, is that an itch? If England Rugby League came knocking, and would you want a second crack at that?
Well, I probably won't answer that as a direct question because I would respect somebody's in the job there. But I'm telling you, that was one of the best periods again. Different style of coaching, not on that weekly treadmill, being able to create an identity, pull a program together. That was like I have honestly, from that job, I have no regrets what we did from that England perspective. Like that was a brilliant, brilliant part of my career, and something that probably not thought too much about in terms of you just asked that question. I won't answer it like I said directly, but wow, what a sensational job that is. And when you look at the excitement, what's coming at the end of the year for the coaches and the players involved in that, you know, you've got to say that's certainly something that anybody would want to take on, something like that.
You already mentioned that you'd when you spoke to Sam Tompkins getting a first trophy at the Catalan Dragons. Imagine if Steve McNamara took over from Sam Burgess and got the first one for the Primrose and Blue. That would be that'd be an accolade as well. But no,
yeah, they've won trophies, so it's the grand final.
It's the grand final. That's it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Four teams, only 4 teams won it,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's like someone's got to do it. Okiara trying to get it done, and we tried to get it done. Cass had a go, didn't they? Warrington have been a couple of grand finals, but none of
Huddersfield won a league leaders. Yeah,
they did, didn't they?
Did, mate, yeah, you know, there's a lot of them that's had a go.
All FC made a grand final, I think, 1 year against
Salford.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, they've been there. There's been chances, but you know, the big teams know how to get it done because they've been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. Steve, you know, it's the first time really that we properly spoke. It's, you know, we were just so delighted that you chose Super League Raw to do your first sit down with. From your perspective, I hope you've enjoyed the chat. How have you found being interviewed by Super League Raw?
I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, I only met you for the first time a couple of months back at Magic there, and then bumped into you again at the weekend. But I feel like I've known you for years already. That's credit to yourself, credit to the way you've sort of conducted the interview. And I just appreciate, like I said, it's nice to be able to talk about it. It's nice to be able to reflect on some of the things that you've done. And it's been really fulfilling for me just to have this, you know, I thought it was going to be 45 minutes. I think you've been going for nearly an hour and 25. You better go and pick the kids up from school.
I've got to go. I do need to go and pick up the kids. Just when we finish, we've just got one final favour from you. But yeah, look, from everybody from the Super League Raw community, Steve, all I will say, again, throwing it back here, first time really that we've had a proper combo. Only met you a couple of times. I've heard a lot about Steve McNamara. I think the way in which you've handled the interview, fantastic, absolutely superb. Hopefully we can do it again in terms of your playing career and maybe get into your coaching philosophies. That'd be an interesting chat. But from all of us to you, we wish you nothing but the very, very best luck. We know you're going to be back, and when you do come back, you're going to add so much value again to the great game that is rugby league football. Steve, on behalf of everybody, thanks for your time. Go well, and hopefully I'll see you on the first when Warrington play Lee and your Benny's playing. You look after yourself.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.